Good morning. This is Center Stage Nonprofits of Tucson with your host, Danielle Johnson. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on Center Stage. I am your host, Danielle Johnson, and I'm so glad that you're here this morning. This is a really cool space where we're able to hear about what's happening in Tucson and some of the work that nonprofits are doing. And we've got a really good show for you today. We have Sarah Reed, who is with Children's Advocacy Center of Southern Arizona. So thank you so much, Sarah, for being here this morning. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Okay, so I always like to start out with just an overview of, what you guys are doing and some of the services that you're providing and how you're impacting the city of Tucson.
Wonderful. Well, the Children's Advocacy Center, we are part of a national network of children's advocacy centers. We provide really two branches of services. One branch is our investigative side, where we work with children who have been either a victim or a witness of a crime. Often that's child abuse, but it could be really any witness to any type of crime. And we provide forensic interviews, medical exams to collect evidence, and advocacy services for those children and their families. We work very closely with law enforcement and with DCS in that process to create a space for kids who've been through something really difficult, to have a space that's child-friendly and trauma-informed and able to provide them with a surrounding buffer around them as they go through the process. We like to say the CAC is where abuse ends and healing begins. The other branch of services that we provide is our prevention education program. So we do a lot of work with parents, parenting workshops, classes. We have a book group. We have parent cafes that we do. We also do community outreach, which are open events to get the community more aware about child abuse prevention and the supports that are available. And we do professional development trainings as well. So those last two, the community outreach and the professional development, those are the ones that mostly fall under me. Those are the things I do. I'm the training and community outreach coordinator there. So we have ongoing events and opportunities for people in the community just to learn more about child abuse prevention, about strengthening families, and about trauma-informed care, kind of in general.
And everything you just said, I mean, that's so much. And knowing that it's, a national program, that's really cool to just know that there's some consistency in different places as well, and that it's something that unfortunately a lot of kids are going to experience some kind of trauma or something where they need to have someone who is trauma informed, who can help them through the process and help them to share information if needed, but to really be able to heal and to process what has happened.
Absolutely. And that's a lot of why child advocacy centers exist. When they were originally created, the people were realizing that there was this problem of kids who had already experienced something traumatic, and then they were getting into the process of the investigative process and prosecution, going through the court and so forth, of where they were basically being re-victimized, re-traumatized by the system, having to tell their story over and over again to people who maybe didn't know how to talk to kids or weren't understanding about how to make that a safe space for them as they process these experiences and so forth. So the CAC model, the Children Advocacy Center model, is created to provide that safe space where people who are trained on how to talk to kids and how to help them with these types of experiences and how to interview them in a way that isn't going to re-trigger or re-traumatize them, kids can go there and be provided with that assistance.
Well, in experiencing something as a child that is wrong, this is not okay. There's this fear oftentimes that kids have that they did something wrong, or that it was their fault. It was part of that they were part of the reason that this bad thing happened. And so being able to have someone who's understanding and doesn't give them the impression, if you have to retell that story, I'm sure that you just feel like you got in trouble over and over and over again. And it just makes it so much harder to heal.
Absolutely. And we talk about that in the parent classes and workshops that we do. Oftentimes when you are parenting a child who's been through something traumatic, you can't use traditional parenting strategies with that child because their behaviors or their responses or their the way that they're dealing with these things that they've been through won't respond the same way that a child who hasn't been through those experiences might respond. So when we talk to parents about strategies to help support these children, we talk a lot about how can we adapt some of those more traditional methods to have a trauma-informed approach in even in parenting and in responding to these kids to help not only when they're with us, but when they go forward with their families. We want to make sure that they have that cushion and space to continue their healing journey.
And you mentioned already a few different aspects of the preventative programs, I guess, that you have available, some of the resources that are available for families when they need it. If someone is needing services, if they have a child who has experienced some kind of trauma, how do they get involved or get connected with you? What's the process of trying to get that education so that they can help their kids?
Absolutely. So our investigative services in terms of the interviews and so forth are only accessible by law enforcement, but all of our community outreach, parenting education, professional development trainings, all of those are free and open to the public. We have all the opportunities listed on our website, which is CACSOAZ, stands for Children's Advocacy Center of Southern Arizona, so CACSOAZ.org. We can also be reached at our main office. We have a 520-724-6600, 520-724-6600. But really our website has all of those opportunities on it. We are currently just about ready. In the next couple of days, we're going to post our events calendar up there, which will have everything coming up in the next few months with links for families to get involved. And like I said, everything is free and available. For families, most of our opportunities are virtual, so people can join us from wherever. We also have some that are in person, so our local families can come in. We often provide snacks or even dinner when we do our in-person training, so those are extra special. And we do them in English as well as in Spanish for our Spanish-speaking families.
That's awesome. Making it accessible to more people. That's really great. So as we're talking about, some of the services and the opportunities for someone who may be parenting a child who has experienced trauma. Sometimes we're around a child for different reasons, as a teacher, as an aunt, an uncle, maybe a family member who's not part of the household. If we know someone who's in our lives and we're wanting to just be supportive, are there classes for that as well, especially for teachers or childcare workers?
Yes, so that is where our professional development opportunities come into play. We have some that are offered on an ongoing basis, and we also have a whole list of trainings that we can do for groups by request, and again, completely at no cost to those groups. They just contact us and say, we're trying to get our staff educated in whatever. So we offer mandated reporting, for example. So we mandate reporting law, teaching about what that entails, which is a requirement for a lot of organizations, should be all organizations that work with kids. But we also teach on adverse childhood experiences. We teach on growing in resilience. We teach on trauma-informed care practices, stewards of children, which is about child sexual abuse prevention, protective factors, which is a model that's been designed on highlighting the main protective factors that help to strengthen families and prevent child maltreatment. All of these trainings are offered off and on through our agency, but we can, like I said, also do them by request if organizations are interested in having one that's tailored just for their setting.
And if a school or some kind of group were to call you and ask you for these trainings, are these free for them as well?
Absolutely. Yes, any organization who works with families can request a training.
Is there a minimum group number that, in order to book something like this?
So we prefer to have at least 8 in a class, just so that there's the ability to have a good conversation. We've made a few exceptions on that, but we prefer 8. And depending on what the group is, we may have a limit of about 30. I think the biggest training I did actually had 85 people, and that was recently. So that was a bit large, but we'll accommodate. We work with the needs of the group.
Okay, that's very good information. I think that, as someone who used to be in education, it is something that, as much as there are things in place to try to help parents or to try to help teachers or, someone who's working in a school, there's not enough. There's not enough that's easily accessible. You have to go looking for it. And so, just knowing that that's free and that's available and all they have to do is call and schedule it with you. I really hope that our listeners will take advantage of that, because as a teacher, I'll tell you that I would have loved to have had more training, especially at the school that I was at when I was first teaching high school, because there were a lot of kids that were in my classes that I knew had difficult and traumatic backgrounds, but I didn't personally know how to approach it in the right way or how to be supportive in the right way. And it was something that it's not something you can just learn on your own. You really need to get the training and to understand what is important in helping them.
Absolutely. And we have in all of our outreaches and our professional development, our parenting lessons, we really want to not just help those who have already been affected by trauma, but prevent it from happening in the first place. I tell people I work in child abuse prevention, and I've had people say, well, child abuse isn't preventable, right? It's not preventable. And I say, yes, it is. It is preventable. And it's about supporting families and providing them with the resources that they need, and making sure that they have people around them who are, in their corner and going to go to bat for them, and make sure that they are able to take care of those kids in the best way that they can. And so we are in the business of supporting families and preventing child abuse, and really trying to make a difference, not just here in Tucson, but in our southern Arizona and across the state as much as we can.
And are there just a couple of things you can give us talking about prevention real quick, a couple big ideas for how we can do that? We've got about 30 seconds, but...
Well, that's a big topic. A lot of it has to do with support. It has to do with parents or caregivers having those people who are their connections, who are there for them, who are going to support them, who are going to help them when they have different difficulties. We are a culture that's very isolating, where we tend to think every person for themselves, and that's not conducive for raising children. Like, we need to have each other as our supports. Caregivers and parents spending time in their own self-care in order to build our own resiliency is also a real big key.
We will be back in just a couple minutes. Thank you so much for being here listening. This is Center Stage, Nonprofits of Tucson.
Are you thinking of making a move or selling your home? Our Center Stage Nonprofits of Tucson host, Danielle Johnson, can help you. Danielle's passion for helping others shines through in her advocacy for her clients. Call Danielle Johnson with Indy Realty at 520-373-6864 for a free home valuation or no obligation consultation. That's 520-373-6864.